the easiest way to catch the owner's eye is to own the place. And what that means is really that in prosperity, you're dealing from strength. Did you know that in poverty, in any degree, you're always dealing from weakness? Have you noticed that? You're always under the situation, and it is on top of you. But from prosperity, you're always dealing from strength. Not just human strength, but divine strength. Prosperity is divine in nature, and it does not come from man, and you need not be afraid of it or concerned about it no matter what you've been taught in the past. Prosperity is a divine experience from a divine origin or source, and money is a divine substance. It is very, very good. It means freedom and joy and a light heart, the ability to function more completely and generously. Prosperity means really being in your right mind. But we have been afraid, we've been taught to be afraid to let prosperity happen to us. We have not been willing to experience it. And we cannot experience anything on this earth until we become willing to have that experience. In the book, The 12 Powers of Man by Charles Fillmore, in the 9th chapter, the caption is, "The will is the man." The idea is that the development of the will is possible only through the development of the mind as a whole. And as man is mind, the will is the man. This conclusion is reached because the will moves to action all the other faculties of the mind and seems to be the whole process. Nothing can happen in our lives until we will it to be so. Fantastic thought. We must be willing for our prosperity to become our experience. If you had a little magic box in your home that produced whatever you wanted whenever you opened the lid, and you opened the lid by willing it to open, and willing to have emerge from that box that which you needed in your life, if you had such a box in your home, what would happen to your state of consciousness, to your thoughts, and to your feelings? The first thing that would probably happen would be a complete change in your thinking. All fear would go, all worry, all lack, and all sense of insecurity and of inferiority. Knowing that you could go to that little box as often as you needed to, and to bring forth through willing it anything that you needed in your life, would eliminate all sense of limitation and strain from your mind, wouldn't it? All that you would ever need would be there. It would just issue forth simply by willing it. There would be no more poverty in your life. Having what you wanted when you wanted it, when you willed it, would not only lift you out of all material need, but would, if the power were used wisely, and notice that I said wisely, because you would have learned by this time that you would not want what your neighbor had. You would not want your neighbor's spouse, that which was in your neighbor's bank account, that which your neighbor had acquired by right of consciousness would not be attractive to you at all. Through your newly acquired wisdom, all that you would want to bring into manifestation would be from your own divine imagination and creativity, your own world being formed. That's how wise you would be. And would that not make you a better and a more useful and a more effective, a more dynamic, a stronger person? Think how turned on you would be. You'd be the life of the party. Oh, you'd smile from ear to ear. Think how generous you would be with your family and with your friends. Do I hear you say that this is all a lot of nonsense, a figment of my imagination? You're wrong. The box that I used is merely a symbol for your consciousness. Because your consciousness is that little magic box. And it has been sending forth into the visible world all around you your life. But only that which you have willed, and everything that exists in your world is there because you have willed it to be, even those things you do not like or want. How does that grab you? And if it has not yet arrived, it is because you have not been willing to fulfill the conditions for its arrival. The will is the man or the person. Prosperity is something that happens as easily and as naturally as does its opposite, poverty. Except prosperity is the easier, softer way, the more beautiful way. In these weeks together now, in this class on prosperity, we've been erasing the patterns of poverty from our subjective minds, and we've started the process of replacing these old ideas with visions of prosperity and with the accompanying feeling of prosperity. We've been assuming the feeling of our wish, of our will, of our vision fulfilled. In this class, we've been making a new start in our lives, a new beginning, and many people here this evening are starting their lives all over and beginning to move forward and upward in a brand new, exciting experience in life. They're turned on, they're born again. They're experiencing the rebirth. And if you've not attended our earlier classes, you might ask, well, how do I start forward? And you start forward when you begin to think and to do new things. To think them, to will them, and to do them. For example, if you've been lonely and if you've lacked love and companionship in your life, or health or wealth, it's because you've been locked up in old ideas and perhaps thinking and talking only of things of the past, looking back over your shoulder at the past and repeating the concepts and the emotional responses to the past experience. Remember the story of Lot's wife. And we start forward when we begin to think of new things each day, to begin to take an interest in our lives right now. And then to begin to move forward doing these new things that we've been thinking about and visualizing. But first we have to clear away the wreckage of the past from our minds and our emotional response to the past. So if you desire health or companionship, wealth, in this last week you've been envisioning your new life, your new experience. Remember that you began to create your new book of you, this book that will help you to remold your image of yourself. And you're building up a newly formed and alive, exciting vision of the person that you are and of the experience that this person that you are is destined to have. Whatever you need, whatever you desire, must begin to take form and shape in your own imagination. And then one has to begin to move into action, not only to think in a new way and to feel in a new way, but to begin to do some new things every day. Something that you've never done before, begin to do it. That is moving you in the direction of your new dream, of your new expectancy. Or perhaps it's something that you've been doing, but begin to do the old thing in a new way. And then conditions will begin to change for you. This morning, as I was preparing the notes for this class, the mail came, and I opened the mail, and there was a letter from one of us who is normally here, but who happens to be out of town for just this one class. I'd like to read to you a portion of this letter. During one of your prosperity lessons, he said, you recommended that we get a legal-sized tablet and write out the lists of everyone and everything that we had hurt or who had hurt us, and that we forgive or ask for forgiveness from those people or situations, thereby releasing our subconscious barriers, the subconscious barriers to our creative forces. In Catherine Ponder's book, The Dynamic Laws of Prosperity, on page 43, she recommended a technique for writing a note to the person's angel. The following is the account of what happened to us, to me, to that person's angel, and myself, he said. 4 years ago, Jack, I had a friend whom I admired and respected as a brother and as a spiritual guide. He got into a financial bind and came to me and told me of his problems. I had $1,400 in my savings account, which I immediately withdrew and gave to him, no strings attached. I did it because I loved him and because he needed it. But as a result of this transaction, my friend and teacher apparently felt something negative within himself, I know not what, but he started to avoid me regularly. I really missed the company of this beautiful soul and decided to use Ponder's technique to nullify our estrangement with this friend. And I wrote the following letter to his angel early the next morning after your Wednesday night class. To the angel of Joe Doe. I bless you and give you thanks for bringing to a perfect conclusion this personal matter, and that all concerned are blessed and satisfied by you. Thank you, God. I wrote this 15 times. And Jack, guess what happened? That very night, after 4 long years when I had not seen or heard from my friend, he called me and told me that he wanted to see me the next day. Doesn't that give you a chill, Jack? It does me. We had lunch together the next day, and he gave me a check for $400 and told me he wanted to do this. He wanted to restore our friendship, and he would pay me back as he got it. We're now close friends again. And oh, by the way, Jack, in one of your tapes that I have brought with me, I heard you say that long ago, oh God, you chose me. My existence is proof of this. But now, oh God, I choose you. Wow. When I heard this on that tape, Jack, my heart opened so wide that I cried like a baby with the realization of the profound truths that these words evoked. We are like a child in kindergarten class just starting to realize our potential. We're striving to remember who we are as often as possible, and sometimes we forget, but we now remember that we forget. Whereas before, we would forget that we forgot. How's that for a tongue twister? It really works. This power really works. There's a person here tonight who has been involved with a mastermind group as a result of a great need in his business life, in his business world. I won't give you the details. I can't. It had to do with a very, very large sum of money and the business. And the business was deteriorating rapidly. And there had been no movement in trying to sell it or to restore it to a sound financial basis. The very week that he became involved with his mastermind group and they became a partner with God, it began to unfold. in the most beautiful way if he and his mastermind group had outlined the very best possible deal that they could have come up with. They probably would not have dared to have thought of this plan. And not only that, but approximately 40% of the many thousands of dollars involved were cash. Think of that in these times. A beautiful transaction. And where did it come from? Well, my friend, when you become a partner with God, he pays all the bills. All the bills. And as we change the concepts in the little magic box of consciousness, so does our lives change dramatically. And if your life is not changing dramatically, you know why. But it can change dramatically tonight, this very night, this very moment. The last two lessons, we've been talking about techniques of speaking the Word, and then last week of using the creative imagination to visualize our new life, to begin to form pictures, and to begin to add statements or phrases to give vitality to those pictures, this new life, this new image of yourself. Now, as we move forward in consciousness, using words, we probably won't use such words as conquest or overcoming, because they suggest an aggressive approach. In this discipline of delight that you and I are using, we're not people who are weary from wrestling with our old lower natures, but suddenly we become people who are poised and relaxed, achieving our prosperity through realization instead of competition. No more competition, no more conflict. We're through with competition and conflict, because in the spiritual dimension they do not exist. If you're in them, you're not in the spiritual dimension. There's peace and poise and relaxation and the absolute certainty that the wish is fulfilled, and you move jubilantly and joyfully into the experience in consciousness without suffering, with complete freedom, and with absolutely no struggle within yourself and within the outer world around you. In this new way, we're directing our attention upon good as the only reality in our lives. And we've been working with this discipline of delight, this feeling good about our lives. And with this different concept of the disciplining of the mind, and with our realization that our partnership with God is to share His life and His power, and it's through His life and His power that our own life goals are attained. It's God's power that's going to be your prosperity. This leaves us then only with the necessity of disciplining ourselves to be delighted in our power and in our experience. Now, you were delighted. I could feel it. I could feel the hush come over your mind and the exclamation that came through your voice when I told you of someone else's unfolding experience. You're delighted with the successes of the people around you, aren't you? How about your own successes this week? Are you delighted with your own life and with your own experience? Have you seen God at work? And if so, have you written it down, described it to yourself so that you could come back to it and remember it and praise and bless and give thanks for your own delightful experience? Is your life becoming a delightful experience rather than a drudgery and a burden and a competitive thing that you must move out into each day and suffer a bit and then come home and rest up so that you can go back out and suffer? There's no delight in that, and there's no prosperity in that kind of thinking. That is the opposite. That is poverty thinking, and it produces constriction at every level of our lives. You see, this delight activates the power of God in our lives, and thereby providing us with the wand of authority over our whole world. You've been given dominion over your world. You see, included in the power that you have been given is the power to choose, the necessity to decide what the power shall accomplish through you. No one can decide what the power is going to accomplish through you but you. And to make that decision, you must will it. Now, this is not a restriction of the power any more than the choice of the song from the available songs is a restriction of the singer's ability or the artist's ability to play. As a matter of fact, before you play or sing, you must choose what you're going to sing. You're in real trouble if you don't decide. Aren't you, Bill? You bet. Now, many of us know what we want, but we do not realize how little we want it. Do you know how little you have wanted what you want? Think about it. How much do you want what you want? Enough to become willing to have it? Because what you don't want is what you've been willing to have. You've been settling for what you don't want. You've thereby been willing it to be your experience, and it cannot change until you say no to the old and become willing. Yes, yes, yea to the new. Now be careful when you answer yourself, when you ask yourself the question, how much do I want what I want? You see, you may want what you don't want more than you want what you want. But you think about it. If prosperity is wonderful, and it is, why don't more people choose it or become willing for it to happen to them? Because it will happen to all who will it intelligently, wisely. Perhaps it's because they think that to make this choice will require them to struggle, that the pressures in life will increase and they will have to do all sorts of things unnatural to them, things they don't want to do. Now, a person can only believe this because they misunderstand how God works, and because they have a very low self-image of themselves and a very small God image within themselves. You see, actually the exact opposite is true. Prosperity is freedom. And in these 8 weeks, we've been creating a prosperity awareness and consciousness. We've been gradually coming to believe that the prosperous life is not a struggle. As a matter of fact, it is the easier, softer, more beautiful, desirable, acceptable way. Now, we've come to the point that we must choose it for ourselves. Each one must choose for oneself prosperity. We must opt for it. The word opt means to choose. To opt is to use the mental faculty by which one deliberately decides upon a course of action. Opt comes from the same root word as opulent. Opulence comes from opulentus, meaning having or characterized by great power, wealth, riches, abundance. It means abundant, plentiful, flowing freely, wealthy, rich, affluent, luxuriant, profuse, lavish. Aren't they beautiful words? Oh, I just love to hear them. It means characterized by fullness and vitality. How would you like to live a life that these words described and your whole life was characterized by fulfillment, fullness, and by vitality?
This concludes Side A. Now, please fast forward to the end and turn the cassette over for the continuation of prosperity principles that work.
You're a vital, active, free-flowing, moving. Isn't this a powerful definition for prosperity? But it's more than a definition. It's a direction. One must opt for opulence. The mind must choose it. The person must deliberately will it and then move forward into it, go into action in the direction of it. Now, will is the mental faculty by which one deliberately chooses or decides upon a course of action. Emerson said that will is the sustaining, coercive, and ministerial power. The police officer in man, the traffic cop. It's the power to arrive at one's own decision and to act upon it independently in spite of opposition. Now, when we make a decision to move forward into this new experience of prosperity, where do you think the opposition will come from? Within ourselves. If you don't believe it, try. But will is the power to act upon it independently in spite of the opposition. It says, I will and I will not rest until this experience is mine. I will. And the moment that you will a thing, you decree it, you order it, and all of the powers of the mind then agree and move forward into action. And that's where we are at this point in our prosperity consciousness program. We are becoming willing to have it happen to us. Some people have said to me this week, I'm afraid to try to decide the kind of life I want to live. How can I know that it's God's will for me, these things that I desire? I'm not certain that my desires are God's will for me. Let's take a look at the word desire. Now, there's one source of the derivation of this word that says that the very word means from or of the Father. Sire means father. So that which we feel as a desire is the fathering aspect of the power seeking to father a new expression of itself through us. It's the source fathering or siring a new activity. Your desire is of the Father. And we're talking about the real desires of the heart, those desires that are seeking to rise above the horizon of your consciousness deep within your feeling nature. And this is why we should never attempt to imitate others. This is why that we should never attempt to be anything other than that which we feel compelled to be. Everyone has a special kind of genius. In all of nature, there are no two things alike. No two things. Not even two blades of grass are the same. To respond to the power as it tries to express through us as our desire is the way to fulfill our own particular genius. Your genius will never flow. You will only live from the surface of yourself, and you will never live with power, with real power, until you respond to the desires of your own heart and give them the freedom to vent themselves and to become active and alive. Until you turn yourself loose and say, world, move over, here I come. And deep within you is that desire. That desire to become what you already are, freely and joyfully. But we say to ourselves, well, I work in a shop. I work in an office. I'm a housewife. I'm a salesman. How can I be different? How can I be a genius? And no matter how conforming or confining or monotonous your activities seem to be, everyone can do those things differently and beautifully and make a major contribution. Where you are in life, you are well placed to make a major contribution to this world. And do not doubt it. God is trying to express Himself and reveal Himself and love Himself and recreate Himself through you. And your desire is that fathering nature within you seeking freedom. It's the imprisoned splendor of your being. If you want to excel, or if you want to be removed from where you are, out of the limitations of your present situation, the way to do it is to respond to your desires and to begin to love and to enjoy the discipline of delight in where you are. Listen to this person. He began piano lessons when he was 3. He was later given a small violin which he played immediately without instruction. He learned the organ in the same manner. His development was so rapid that he embarked upon his first tour when he was 6. And his musicianship and intelligence startled European aristocracy and royal. He was Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. And there was a friend and a musician close to the family who often visited them in their rented 3rd floor flat. The family was very humble and did not have much. And this man, Schachtner, wrote about Mozart. When he and I carried his toys from one room to another, one of us who was empty-handed always had to sing and march and play the fiddle. He was always sensitive. He used to ask me over and over again whether I loved him. And when as a joke I would say no, bright tears would fill his eyes, so tender and affectionate was his dear little heart. Doesn't that sound like you? Of course it does. Doesn't that sound like your dear little heart before you turned it off? He was full of fire. His inclinations were easily swayed. I believe that if he had not been given the advantage of careful guidance, he might have become reckless in evil ways. So susceptible was he to every enticement before he could distinguish the good from the harmful. Is that not what happened to you? Is that not what extinguished your fire? You were easily swayed and you fell susceptible to negative enticements so that your genius has been dissipated upon negative experiences and responses because there was not the careful guidance there. And once when Wolfgang was 4, his father Leopold discovered him setting ink to paper and asked him what he was doing. Writing a concerto. He said, "It will soon be done." "Let me see it," his father said. "It's not finished yet," said Wolfgang. "Never mind, let me see it." His father took the concerto, and at first he laughed at this nonsense, his little 4-year-old son writing a concerto. But soon the father began to discern a theme, a note succession, a composition form, and he looked more closely, and tears of wonderment and delight came to his eyes. "Look, Schachtner," he said, "how correct and orderly it is." Of course, it could never be of any use, for it's too difficult, and no one in the world could play it. "I can," Wolfgang said. "I wrote it." "That's why it's a concerto. It must be practiced." "See, this is how it should go," and he began to play, 4 years old. The same genius is in you. The same genius, the same power, The same creativity is trying to express itself in your life, and you have turned it off. He did not. He let it bubble to the surface. He let it express. He was willing to flow into life and to let this divine ecstasy form and shape his life. And Schaffner said, he then absolutely believed that playing concertos and performing miracles were one and the same thing. How about your life? What is that but a concerto that you're writing? You are performing God's divine experience in your world. And it will take the form and the shape and the color that you assign it, that you will it. No more and no less. But unless we turn away from the outer world, the negative things that we have given our power to, our energy to, our fire to, where is this fire that he was talking about except the fire that lives within your own breast, within your own heart? To let it come alive, to will it into expression and to rejoice in it and to take delight in this something that is seeking to bubble to the surface of your being, and it is your being. It is nothing other than yourself, because you are not this physical form, this physical self that you thought yourself to be today. You are that divine essence, that creativity. So do whatever you're doing the way you want to do it. For it isn't you that is wanting it that way. It is the power within you. And of course I mean now that we have the wisdom to no longer use this as an excuse to carry out our selfish ideas. We're looking deep within ourselves and seeing those divine, unselfish, beautiful things that we now wish to do. See, it's the power within you that is making these new demands upon itself for new expressions of itself, seeking to use you as the means of its fulfillment. The Father desires to have an experience and created you so that that experience could come alive. Have you noticed in your life that you have not been able to settle for mediocrity? You suffer with it. You suffer when you live a day and have not fulfilled yourself. You suffer every hour that you work at your position in life mechanically and do not put your best into it. And you hang your head, whether you know you do or not, when you do not form and shape your world with love and with this higher part of you expressing its beauty. How can you be prosperous, my friend, until you become this self that seeks to become a concerto, a beautiful new form and expression that only you can play? Only you can play that which you write, but you can't. Your heart's dream is perfectly attainable, playable, experienceable by you right now, but it requires you to believe it. This child, 4 years old, never doubted that that which was within him could become his experience, and you and I are much older. Why do we doubt? So accept your desire and act upon it. Become willing for it to be your expression. Now, it's true that you may misinterpret what you desire in the beginning, and your actions may for a time be imprudent in the opinion of other people, and may actually be misleading to you. But the worst thing that can result is that you have, for a moment, misinterpreted life's call upon you for your cooperation. But even this misinterpretation is more valuable and more progressive than if you turned a deaf ear and compelled yourself to remain in a frustrated circumstance and state of consciousness, unwilling to move forward into a new experience. Is even that not better than continuing to choose what you do not want? The worst thing you can do is make a mistake. But you've made one of them before, haven't you? And I'll tell you that in the last 22 years of my life, the best things that have ever happened to me were the worst. And every mistake that I've ever made got corrected. Not by me. But as we become willing to correct our mistakes, do you think that in writing a concerto that you put every note down on the page just right, or that when you begin to play it that all the sounds come out just right? No. We make these corrections as we go along. And we can do this because our desires are the way that God's power is telling us what's next in our unfoldment. Your desire is a preview of becoming attraction. So believe them. Believe that they're an unfoldment. An unfoldment of what? An unfoldment of your own creativity. You saw on television recently the National Geographic special, The Incredible Machine, which was a dazzling look at the most complex of the living organisms, the human body. And in that television program, you saw this marvelous instrument, the body, one just exactly like yours. And you could see with your mind an invisible intelligence, power, love that was working in a marvelous way to coordinate all of this activity of the body. And you could see that the smallest cell, the farthest removed from the source of energy and of life in the body, was cared for. Every part of the body was cared for by some intelligence that was working together for the good of all. And it was such a beautiful thing to behold. Here was this marvelous machine equipped so intelligently to take into itself food that it transformed into energy, sustaining, life-giving energy. And that was carried throughout the whole system. And things were monitored, and how beautiful it was. I saw one cell in the human body that was more intelligent than I am. One cell is smarter than we are because it knows exactly what to do and how to do it, and all things are working together for the good of each and every part. Now, if this is true of a cell in your body, how much truer it must be that you, a single divine expression, a single living organism in the universe of life, is being cared for by the whole body. Can you not see that the energy that has created the universe and is sustaining it is rushing to you everything that you need, and all you need do is to believe it? It's trying to reproduce itself in you. Its ingenuity and ability to shape and form the starry galaxies it would just love to use to shape and form your little life. If it can form all of outer space, a galaxy of a billion stars, and a universe of a billion galaxies, why can it not perform its mighty task in your small area of responsibility? It can, but you must will it. You must become willing for it to perform its mighty works in your name, in your nature, in your behalf. And the moment that you do, it rushes forward and forth into expression, into its own divine activity. Do you believe this? But can it do it for one who is not delighted with their life? For one who does not rejoice, and for one whose heart does not sing with expectancy? Can it do it for someone whose image of themselves is so poor that they say, poor me, nothing good can happen to me today? No. You are an incredible being. Because the power of you is not from you. It is from on high. It is from the law, from the Lord, from Jehovah. From God as you understand God, from that one source of energy and of strength and of beauty. It wants to shape your world and your life. And the shaping of your world and of your life, that experience is what we here in this class call prosperity. It takes many forms. It's the universal substance reforming itself as you and your world in a divine and beautiful and completely satisfactory way. It's a way that takes from you all care and all worry and brings into your life its divine substance in many forms, including that of money. Let me read to you from the 6th chapter of Matthew. If your eye is pure, there will be sunshine in your soul. But if your eye is clouded with evil thoughts and desires, you are in deep spiritual darkness, and oh, how deep that darkness can be. Why do you worry about your clothes? Look at the lilies of the field. They don't worry about theirs, and yet King Solomon in all his glory was not clothed as beautifully as they. So don't be anxious about tomorrow. God will take care of your tomorrow too. Live one day at a time, this day. The Hebrews of the Old Testament had a special word they used for prosperity. It was Jehovah Jireh. And it meant the Lord or the law provides for me, regardless of opposing circumstances. Now, Jesus called Jehovah Father. So Jehovah Jireh would mean the Father richly provides for me. The Sire, the source of my being, richly provides for me now. I desire for myself what the Father desires for me. Go forth this week choosing what God has chosen for you. Become willing to have God's will be your experience. And if you do, you'll have a remarkable week and a remarkable life. So it is.
This concludes the lesson on tape number 8. Now proceed to tape number 9 for the continuation of Prosperity Principles That Work.